Greetings, this is Bradford Donald Keller Townsend, and this is a forward research report on Jewish mysticism, metaphor, and analogs to contemporary science and recent developments, connecting the rational with the mystical. I'd like to start with a gentleman who's now in his early 90s, Sir Roger Penrose. He is a Sir, and that he was knighted for his contributions to science. He has taught at many institutions, written numerous books, with one of the most respected is his book on gravitation and general relativity, which is used still or recommended as a resource for graduate students getting their PhDs in physics. So he has mastered these topics. And while he's famous for his work on black holes and working with Stephen Hawking, he is started out more as a mathematician in algebraic geometry. He graduated from the University of Cambridge in England, and then after traveling and teaching at many places and writing many books, settled in at Oxford University. And he now, or has for many years, been a proponent of the multiple Big Bangs, that similar to Hindu mythology or religion, that there are cycles of, and that you could have a Big Bang in one region of the universe, and a crunch and a bang in another section over the billions and billions of years. And this is significant from a mystical point of view if you look at evolution. If there's been more than one Big Bang, and one may affect the other but be extremely far away, and so that you could have independently developing sections, huge sectors, almost unimaginably big sectors of the universe. If life came about billions of years ago on another sector of space, on another planet, it could have risen to the form of going beyond being an ape-type human to over millions of years of intelligent evolution, becoming more of a energy field being. So from there I'm going to move on to the electromagnetic spectrum, and I'll blow it up here. You can see that of the spectrum, with the weakest, longest radio waves here, then microwaves, infrared, this little bit here on the spectrum, where you see violet to red, blue, light blue, green, yellow here, that's the visible spectrum of the human eye. And then you have X-rays and gamma rays. And you look here, see where the little hand is going up and down? How many times per second, or even longer than a second for these long waves, for it to go by to where you get to the point where to encode messages you might have over 1 billion ups and downs in a single second. And by modulating or changing it is how you encode messages into your cell phones and televisions and computers, Wi-Fi and all those, because as you get over here to the left, the more energetic, and there's more energy involved as you go from the right here toward the left, and the wavelengths get smaller. So this is, let's say, 10 meters, and that's a tenth of a meter, and then you get to billionths and trillionths of a meter. And the hertz, this is the length of the frequency. This is how many times it goes up and down, and compared to the spectrum up here, and you can see how it rises. So that's 10 to the 7th. So you have 1,000,000 times or 10 million times in here, and then you get into the quadrillions or whatever the huge Googleplex or whatever the big huge numbers are here at the higher frequencies. And then you can see the energy goes from a negative 10 to the 7th, that's 1 over 10 to the 7th fraction, all the way over to a positive 10 to the 7th. So, you know, you get into a million EVs. And when you come to the particles, there are over 120 recognized particles by the physics community, and they have names like up quark, anti-down quark, anti-strange quark, anti-charm quark, anti-bottom quark, anti-top quark, and it goes on and on. And the standard model keeps getting more complex. And if there was a being, we'll call the creator Hashem, that had the ability to be everywhere and can control things, let's say at the quark electron level, and is able to project a force that there's the weak force, the strong force, the electromagnetic gravity, that had the capability, and it had learned, maybe evolved as an intelligent sentient being, to create, let's say, a giant supercomputer in a plasma cloud with trillions of watts of power, that it could project out fields and forces to manipulate at the small tenth of a billionth of a meter size, and also at the jumbo. There's stars over 1,000 times larger in volume than our sun, and also to control things at the big scale by being able to manipulate with fields. And the analogy would be, you know, it had almost an infinite amount of time to program a program, and a huge amount of computing power, and then the ability to control these fields, and we would call that Hashem. And then other energy, magnetic, gravitational field type beings that are not in our visible light spectrum. So back in school, maybe as early as kindergarten, first grade, you took a bar magnet and put the metal filings, and it created this type of image. You don't see the force on the magnet that's causing the metal filings to behave this way. And there are, that's just to say that there could be sentient, powerful beings that we call Hashem, or the messenger aliens, or demons, or jinn, that evolved to the point where they could leave their bodies, put their consciousness and memories into an energy being that they created for themselves, and then were able to also manipulate space-time and travel from point A to point B almost instantaneously, or to project a hologram of, let's say, of a human being, so that if they wanted to give a message, they could project a hologram, and that hologram would be, let's say, you know, who Abraham or Jacob or Hercules or Achilles or somebody like that interacted with. Rupert Sheldrake has been doing experiments. He has found that, like, dogs have a sixth sense and can anticipate when their partner or owner is coming home, and that They've done experiments done many times by many universities and researchers, and found that this is true. And also, if you give physics tests on certain material, as other physicists, mathematicians, and others who take these difficult tests get better scores as the test is given around the world. So you give the test in Japan, the students in Germany and maybe England, their scores go up, as the test is given around the world. And this has been proven scientifically, and many other experiments with what they call the morphic resonance, and Carl Jung called the collective consciousness. And these are since this is getting to be a little bit of a mature science, there have been hundreds of studies done, and then there's meta studies where you study all the studies of a certain type, and found that it is solid science that follows the definition of science with experiments. And there's the concept of quantum entanglement, where particles faster than the speed of light react to the position of the other. The universe is not a steady state. There's an ongoing creative principle in nature which is driving these things. And Jews would call that Hashem. And Hashem created the small g gods and the angels and such. And here's a graphic that can blow up here a little bit on morphic resonance. We know from measuring human beings' electric magnetic field that it's concentrated around the heart and then radiates out in torus shapes, and then also coming out from the top and the bottom here. And he's calling that the morphic field, or M field, which can be visualized as an outline of the energy commonly referred to in science as the torus energy pattern. Torus is a common pattern found within the universe as a primary configuration on all levels of physical scale, from atoms to galaxies. And here's another. And he says the fields also enable an organism to heal. The self-healing capacity of organisms is inherent in plants and animals. Organism has been healing themselves long before the appearance of humans. Humans have been healing themselves long before the invention of healthcare systems or even energy medicine. Many healing systems work by stimulating our inherent healing capacity. He also does studies into there's certain animals that can lose a limb or a chunk of their body and regenerate it, or even be cut in half, and then both halves will grow to be a full organism again. And there's different imaging equipment that can give you images of that morphic field. He has books on the topic with the graphics and goes into everything in detail about which creatures have that capability and what plants have the morphic field that appears to be around them. And so you can use the metaphors of scientific terms and apply them to spirituality. And it's really exciting and interesting, in my opinion. I am open to new ideas and try to keep myself open to new evidence and lines of reasoning. And I hope that you do as well. And I'm subscribe to several science magazines and follow several websites regularly and try to read the articles. And as I come across things that might be that might cross over into the mysticism side of things, the multidimensional time transcendent, mysticism, and the physicists and chemists and biologists seem to be converging toward similar paths of thought. That's all I have. I hope this has been of interest. Au revoir. Have a wonderful day.